Hello, my name is Joshua Limley. I am studying for a master's degree in educational technology at the University of South Carolina, Aiken. The purpose of this video is for a course that examines gamification in the specific contexts of learning. I'll be examining a video game in relation to its value of what lessons it can teach and how it teaches them. There are four main topics to discuss. First, there are the learning theory characteristics that I believe the game exemplifies. Second, is the motivational characteristics of the game. Third, there is what skills the player will have after walking away from the game. And the fourth topic is on the domains of learning and their associated techniques the game uses in its gamification of those domains. In this video, the featured game will be RingFit Adventure for the Nintendo Switch. This game is an active game that relies on the Switch's Joy-Cons movement to correlate with your character's movement in the game. You travel through a fantasy world and battle monsters doing exercise sensed by the Joy-Cons. One Joy-Con is strapped to your leg and the other is connected to a resistance ring, not unlike the Thigh Masters in days of old. Now let's get into the first topic, the learning theories. The two key learning theories that seem to show up the most are operant conditioning and distributed practice. Operant conditioning is a type of behavior change method developed by a psychologist named B.F. Skinner. Here is an official definition. Operant conditioning, sometimes referred to as instrumental conditioning, is a method of learning that employs rewards and punishments for behavior. Through operant conditioning, an association is made between a behavior and a consequence, whether negative or positive, for that behavior. This may be better described by sharing how this conditioning is used in the game. RingFit Adventure uses an RPG-like system of reaching levels through gaining experience points. You get rewarded with more unlockable exercises and in-game money that is spent on clothing. This clothing makes your character sometimes fatigue less often or sometimes have more power with certain types of exercises. In this case, operant conditioning is more of a tool to continue engagement, but still it's a reward system that ultimately aims at changing the behavior of someone who is not active to be more active. The other learning theory that I feel this game implements is distributed practice. Distributed practice, simply put, is that in the long run, you learn and retain more through intervals of learning than you do when you try the mass practice technique, that is, cramming. This game avoids such cramming in two ways, on a macro level and a micro level. For the macro level, the game gives you a suggestion to cool down after completing 2 to 3 levels. It would be impractical to work out 6 hours a week at the gym if those 6 hours were all done in one day. So after a while, the game does give you a hint to stop and come back again another day. For the micro, each game level is only 5 to 10 minutes long, and even shorter when you only count the exercise time. This makes each level more achievable and gives a feeling of accomplishment for each bout of exercise. Also, during the loading screens, the game will sometimes suggest that you pause to drink a sip of water. These are all uses of distributed practice because it encourages you not to do it all in one sitting. Along with the boost of operant condition, I see all of the characteristics of the ARCS model present in the game as a means for motivating the player to continue. The ARCS model of instructional design is an acronym for Attention, Relevance, Confidence, and Satisfaction. In this model, each of the 4 elements are important to continued motivation to learn. These 4 elements will be discussed further with each example from the game. It seems that the game keeps the player's attention through perceptual arousal, meaning the game provides novelty and surprise. It does this by providing new weapons for defeating the monsters, that is, new ways to exercise the same main muscle groups. As for relevance, the game mostly uses familiarity. This is done by the entire context of the game's plotline itself being in a fantasy world, with traveling from area to area, fighting small monsters along the way with a big boss monster at the end. This is a familiar storyline that many gamers will recognize and be able to relate. For confidence, the game provides successful opportunities. The game levels are designed to be short, about 5 to 10 minutes, so a player can choose to play between 1 and 3 levels within a single workout. Also, the opportunity to change the difficulty is presented every time the player comes back to the game. The wording and how they ask the player this is subtle and doesn't feel like cheating by changing the difficulty mode in the options menu. Lastly, with satisfaction, the game implements extrinsic rewards and positive feedback constantly. As well as gaining experience points as mentioned in the learning theory section of this video, The ring that one of the Joy-Cons is attached to is also represented in the game as a non-player character, or NPC, aptly named Ring, that talks to you through all the levels like a personal trainer. Exercise, nutrition, and weight loss? I'm going to explain why I have a question mark by weight loss later, but for now, let's just get into the other two. Exercise. That's pretty much the entire point of the game, right? With each exercise you learn to do, and you learn more as you play, the game explicitly models for you and shows you how to do these properly. And if you have the leg strap on right, the game can sense whether or not you are doing them correctly. Each exercise fits into one of 4 categories: legs, arms, core, and yoga. Each of these types of exercise does bonus damage to its matching monster type, so the game can make sure you don't ignore one by giving you a variety of monsters. Nutrition and hydration. This is sprinkled throughout the game in little footnotes and loading screens. This may be as a side warning, like the warning to play with plenty of space as to not break something or injure yourself, but I also think it adds to the flavor of the style of game that it is. Many games display tips and tricks on how you can play better and or smarter on the loading screens. So this just helps add that hint of detail that regular gamers would expect from a quality game. And now, weight loss? So I actually wanted to mention this because it's not really the goal of the game, but it is a common reason people choose to take up an exercise routine. There are so many good reasons to exercise, but weight loss is not mentioned a single time in the game. I don't even think it is used as a goal in the game. You can record and edit your height and weight, but that is just to estimate the calories burned. And even calories burning is a weight loss component, but it's still just not mentioned as something to think about. It's purely an exercise game. I think the largest part of the game is to have fun and being fully immersed doing exercise in general. Exercise has shown to have a positive effect on the human body, and many people struggle with the motivation just to do it. The target audience of the game are people who love games, who need that motivation to exercise for whatever end goals they may have. There are 2 key domains that I believe this game has a large focus on: the psychomotor domain and the affective domain. I also think declarative and conceptual knowledge merit an honorable mention at the end. The psychomotor domain is the intersection of physical skills and cognitive knowledge. This is important for exercise when a person is learning proper form for any movement to prevent injuries, as well as work the muscle group that was originally intended for that movement. The game uses instruction for these skills through observation of another NPC called Tip, who demonstrates the motions of every move and models the starting positions. It also uses repetition by always having Tip available for every exercise. Lastly, it uses the haptics of the Joy-Cons to sense the exact position of the leg and arms and uses that information to give corrective feedback if the form is incorrect, or do bonus damage to the monsters if the player's form during the entire move is perfect. The affective domain is the knowledge of attitudes, interests, beliefs, values, and emotions. The game, either through Ring's dialogue or its immersive landscape and storylines, it attempts to convey the belief that exercise can be fun and not the mundane, monotonous chore that many seem to conclude. On top of that, the game's antagonist is also indicative of how the game wants to change the player's mind about exercise. He is a buff, fairly narcissistic dragon that is focused on exercise for many of the toxic reasons that exist in today's gym culture. And now for the honorable mentions: declarative and conceptual knowledge. Declarative knowledge are the direct facts that can be learned, and conceptual knowledge is a grouping of similar or related ideas, events, or objects that have a common attribute or set of common attributes. Going back to the tips and tricks that the game shares in between the levels, these are examples of declarative knowledge, like how much and when you should drink water for exercise. There is also conceptual knowledge, like the structure of a workout. The game stresses the importance of warming up before and cooling down after every workout to prevent injuries. Even though a warm-up and cool-down are optional in the game, they make doing them more convenient and/or the default choice for every session. There are also concepts like exercise in general and the concept of good form, but these are embedded into the game as subtext and not meant to be any main lesson learned. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope to do more videos on games and education soon. All my references are posted below in the description. Thank you.